Hi guys, it's Liv from Trauma Pond HQ, where we sit by the pond and have a little chat. Yeah, I still don't like that introduction, but nobody said anything different yet, so okay. Um, I really should be honest with you guys. This has been a very emotional week, and it's led to an even more emotional day that I've had today. So much so, I had to have my amazing partner um, come over and like really help me out of this emotional turmoil that I'm pretty much in. And it's something that it's a topic that is really unfortunate. It exists. So, with that, I have to do a little bit of a disclaimer or trigger warning. Today's episode is going to be based on abuse, and viewer discretion is definitely advised. I mean, we're going to be talking about mental, physical, and emotional torture of one particular topic that is still taboo on social media platforms of which we share this stuff. So I have to be very careful with the language that I use. How this all started, actually, this morning, I woke up, looked at my phone straight away, should not have done that. But the thing is, I did actually post something this week on holistic mind health on Twitter, or not Twitter, on TikTok. And it's going really well. I didn't expect it to get the views or the attention that it has gotten so far. And I love that. And I love what it's actually done for people. But unfortunately, it really does do things to your For You page. And that's what I have to talk about because today, the very first thing that I saw on social media today was about SA. And, I still don't even know if I'm allowed to say the words sexual assault. Okay, I have to say it like this. Hopefully, it's the only time I'm saying it. But pretty much, I'm going to talk about a certain thing that has haunted me most of my life. I do see myself as an amazing survivor for being able to be here now. And even my partner constantly says, "You're still here." So it could have been worse, which isn't really the best thing to say to a survivor of such a traumatic event. But it's definitely something that I feel like we need to talk about. And it really actually had me in the fetal position in the shower this morning. Even though it is good that people are getting the awareness out, the thing that actually triggered this wasn't to do with an actual assault case. It was to do with a birth gap documentary that's been made and the impulse to promote people to have kids. Now, I am a 35-year-old woman. I'm in a committed relationship. My partner and I know that we don't want to get married and we don't want to have kids. He has his reasons and I have mine. And I feel like whatever your reasons are, they are yours. They should not be tormented against in any way. And anyone that says, well, you're missing out on the joys, yes, I know. I really do know this. But unfortunately, the joys do not weigh out what is actually happening within the systems, government systems, medical systems, school systems, cost of living crisis. But for me, it's the justice system more so. And this is what actually made me feel horrific today. Pretty much what really drove me down this horrific path was my reason for not wanting to have kids is knowing that there is no such thing as protection. And it doesn't matter how much you try your best to help your kids, to make sure that they are safe. There is actually a family that I know, they are trained, every single one of them, in martial arts. And even their kids are subjected now in. There is actually a family that I know, And even their kids are subjected now in schools for this kind of behavior. And it's heartbreaking. And I don't want to go too much into the situation of what I'm talking about here, because it's not my story. I haven't asked for permission to talk about it, but it was horrifying learning what has actually is going on in schools. Absolutely, and it's absolutely fine. As you can tell, I'm very emotional about this. And I'm really trying to fight back tears and try not to get overly emotional about everything that's going on. But I decided to go down the rabbit hole of what has actually happened, especially recently, with anyone who has to deal with SA. So I looked into some statistics. Now, the statistics are actually very hard to follow because there's so many different platforms that give different numbers. But I went with government ones just because that's what is considered the most viable source. And what was actually found in 2021, there were 31,000 reports of sexual assault. 31,000 in that year, which is an increase from the previous year of 13%. Now, if there's an increase, that clearly means that something is not being done. I then decided to go down another rabbit hole to see how many of those cases actually went to trial and how many are actually incarcerated. The stats are not good. And again, I just want to clarify, that's 31,000 that were reported. And unfortunately, and this is something that I'm very much ashamed of, I genuinely cannot count how many times I have been a victim of that sort of assault. I genuinely can't count it. But it's a lot. And it surpasses two hands. Wow, I'm really sorry. I really don't want to be a downer on this, but unfortunately, this is Trauma Pond HQ, so we're going to talk about trauma. Shamefully, I have never reported anything, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And the stat that shows backs it up, because out of the 31,000 that were reported, apparently only 6,000 are incarcerated. That's not even touching the sides of what's happened. So you have to understand that when people actually have this kind of an abuse to them, the trauma never goes away. And there's no such thing as coping with it. You have to, unfortunately, live with this. And yeah, I was a teenager when this happened to me. So the other thing about this is as well, I didn't know for, I think it was 4 or 5 years, what had actually happened to me. I had no idea what the word that we're not even allowed to say on these platforms. That's what's crazy. You can't say the words. I didn't know what it was. I had no idea. I'd never been informed of it. And I can't even truly remember what actually triggered my mind into it to know what it was. I believe that there was a movie that came on and I switched it off straight away because I felt really uncomfortable. And I was like, I don't know why, but I can't watch this particular scene. And then in college, there was, I went to performing arts, and one of the plays that one of my friends had put on, because I was actually more interested in directing, one of my friends had actually created a play that was about DV, and one of the scenes involved SA. And I left that play really traumatized. because I had no idea what things actually were. I didn't know that there was crimes related to this. And I was 21 when I saw that. And then I was able to actually tell my college boyfriend at the time, and still, really, that's the only times that I've been able to talk about it with people close to me. I certainly have not ever been able to report it, or any of them, to be honest. So why? Why do we not do this? Well, there's a lot of shame. I mean, I'm shamed for not reporting it, and I'm shamed for the fact that it even happened to me in the first place. And I know for a fact that every single person that ever experiences this sort of trauma experiences the exact same thing. And what's even more complicated is the fact that it's not just women that this happens to, it happens to men as well. And what's even more upsetting, I feel very upset for men that have to experience this. They get even less belief than women do. And gosh, it is so hard to talk about this, and I'm so sorry. But you have to understand that the reason why a lot of people, and why that number is so low, and I will say this right now, I could say that there's another 0 just for that year. 31,000? I don't believe that for one second, especially considering that was 2021 and a large portion of Australia was locked up. So I could guarantee that the number is way higher, considering all the things that I know that has happened to a lot of people I'm friends with and what they've been subjected to. You're never going to get believed. And even if you do go and report it, the people that I know who have reported this particular event, they get treated as criminals themselves. They get treated as the ones that have caused the issue. They are the ones that end up not getting believed for what has happened, or getting accused of trying to ruin someone else's life. Never mind the fact that you've already gone through something that is so horrific and so traumatic that they end up being classed as criminals. So in a way, the reason why you don't report it is because you're also protecting yourself from that kind of trauma. I do also have a horrific story involving the Me Too movement that happened in 2018. So I did actually make a video talking about this for the very first time, and I put it up on Facebook. And it got a little bit of traction, and then I realized my parents had only just joined Facebook earlier that month that I had put this video out. And I was like, sugar, they're going to see this. So maybe I'll just give them a heads up, because I'm not taking this down. People need to know what actually happens and how common this is. And the more people that speak out about this, the better. So I called my dad and I warned him, and I said, Dad, I'm really sorry. I have made a video explaining that something happened to me in college, and that this incident is not fun for you to listen to, or for anyone, but it is something that I'm proud that I've been able to speak out about, and I really hope that you respect that this is really painful, and I understand that it's going to be painful for you. And I pretty much just left it at that. I didn't tell him what was on it. I just said, I've done something, and I really hope that you understand why. And then called my mom. Now, I didn't know at this time what my mom was, but I felt as though I had to warn her that, I've made this video. Of course, my mom straight away said, oh, Olivia, why would you make such a thing? Sorry, that's my mom's impression. Another good impression of my mom is, oh, Olivia, you're starting to look like a man, because I do bodybuilding. But when I called my mom and I said to her, look, I've done this, she said, why on earth would you do such a thing? That's not a good thing to do. That's such a terrible thing to do. Why would you do such a thing? Now, that was just me telling her and warning her. I said, right, I don't care what you think. I've done it. I'm not ashamed of speaking out, and I'm leaving it at that. And I hung up the phone. The next day, I get a phone call from my mom saying that I was the worst person that has ever existed in her life. Literally those words. And how dare I create something that would damage my dad so much. So according to her, this is according to her, I don't know how much I can actually say that is true, because obviously you cannot trust a narcissist with this kind of information. Apparently my dad had watched it, but my mom didn't. Now my siblings had watched it, and both of my sisters, my brother as well, he also sent me a message about it. And they called to see how I felt about it. Like, they were sorry for what had happened. And my youngest sister in particular, she was going to the same college that this happened to me. And this was 2 years after she had started there. When I was talking to her about it, because when I knew she was going to go to that college, I gave her really stern advice. I said, do not trust anyone. Do not leave yourself vulnerable. Be careful, because there are people there that are not good people. And that's all I could say to her without telling her what had happened to me. And I actually remember saying to her in that conversation, I said, do you remember the conversation that we had knowing that you were going to go to this college? And she said, yeah, I get it now. And I really hope that it did do something to protect her. But my mom abused the hell out of me for speaking out about what had happened, saying that it was the most damaging thing that I could have ever done to my father. Needless to say, after that, I didn't talk to my mom for 2 weeks. And my siblings, who are enablers to my mom, were calling me and asking me to talk to her again and saying, you know what she's like. She's just this way. Can you just do it? Maybe just do it for dad. Of course, you had to play the dad card. So for them and for my dad, I called my mom, and the conversation was, how are you? Are you right? Oh, it's a lovely day today. That's it. No, I'm sorry for making you feel bad about what happened to you with an assault. Nothing to do with, do you want to talk about this? Narcissistic people don't talk about that at all. They don't want to have anything to do with your downfalls because it's an inconvenience to them. So another reason why I don't feel safe to report it. And of course, by now, there's no way I can report, even the ones that are the most recent, I can't report. Because what is it going to do? Other than make me feel even more traumatized. Nothing will happen to them, because I've just given you the stats of who gets sent to prison, and you can do all of this yourself. Look into the statistics of how many actually even get to court. Never mind the ones that get convicted, but look at how many get to court. It is abysmal. And you get treated like a criminal. And you have to relive it for God knows how long as you go through a court process, only to then get denied your experience. And this is so wrong on every level. And can you believe that I started this conversation for the reasons why I don't want to have kids? Because that is one of the major reasons why I can't trust a system that is going to harm not only just kids, but traumatize them for the rest of their lives. And we're not even talking about the fact that, those are the ones that were reported. I don't even have the actual statistics of how many of those are actually children. And that in itself is way too hard to deal with. I don't want to put my experiences on that of a kid. I know that just because it happened to me, people are going to turn around and say, oh, just because it happened to you doesn't mean it's going to happen to your kid. It's like, no, of course not. But it certainly doesn't give me hope. And the only way I would ever want to consider it is if there was a change. This is a very hard episode for me to talk. And I'm really sorry for anyone that I'm upsetting with this topic. But the trauma in itself is bad enough. How you are treated after it makes it a million times worse. And that's the reasons why. I'm really sorry. It seems really dramatic. And I'm really sorry for hurting anybody with this information. But I know that even my story isn't that bad. That's what's even more messed up. My story isn't that bad. And I truly hope that anyone who has ever experienced this, those that have survived, because a lot of people don't actually survive this. And I'm not talking about the time of the incident happening. I'm talking about years afterwards. Because I'm still lucky to be alive. The amount of times that I wanted to end everything, what's the new term? Unalive. Because of the abuse that I'd suffered, not just at the hands of my mum, but because of all of the SA that I've been subjected to. I'm really sorry for the sniffles as well. It's way too much for any survivor to go through. And you know what? See, if you're still here after everything you've gone through, you deserve a damn medal. I'm not saying that I'm one that should be blowing a trumpet saying that I deserve a bloody medal for everything that's gone on, but I definitely feel like something needs to be recognized. And personally, it needs to be the system. The system needs to change. And I don't know how that's going to happen, because it doesn't matter how many rallies there are. It doesn't matter what goes on. If the whole reason why this topic came up today, because of a birth gap, and the reason why certain people don't want to have kids, you have to look at the reasons why. And those are my reasons why. It's not just about, medical system, cost of living. It has not one of my reasons are selfish. Not one. Nothing to do with my lifestyle, my career aspects. Nothing to do with that. There is not one condition on there that is to do with me. If anything, if it wasn't for everything here, I'd be having two, at least. But there is nothing forcing me to want to have them, because I can't trust. And unfortunately, that is a trauma response. Having no faith, having no trust is a major trauma response. And people are going to say, well, aren't you healing? Aren't you studying psychology? Don't you believe in stuff? Yes. Yes, I'm doing all of that. Yes, I'm in therapy. I have a psychologist. I have a therapist. I'm in group therapy. That's a lot in itself. And yet, I can't do what society deems normal. Do you know what's really terrifying? Every time I look at the camera, because I look so like my mom, I just look like my mom, and it's really triggering. Anyway, I'm really sorry that this has been such an emotional episode, and I truly hope that For anyone that has gone through this kind of abuse, you are healing, you are in therapy, you have trusted people around you. And that's the thing that I rely on the most. I rely on my partner way too much, and I feel really bad. Today he had to come and rescue me, and he's had to come and rescue me so many times because of past trauma events, reliving trauma of traumatic events. It's so I really hate that he is pretty much my healer, because that's not fair on him, and I feel really, really bad. But if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be doing this, because he's the first person that I've had in my life since my grandma passed away that actually shows true care, respect, and love. And that speaks volumes, considering how many people are actually in my life or have been in my life. So I'm just going to end it with this one. Obviously, this episode was just really hard, and I've been really struggling all day to try and make an episode for you guys. But I really hope that this helps in some way for someone to know that you are not alone. I'll end with this. I love you, and I think that you are worth every ounce of what you are. And I truly hope that you are safe and healing. And I will see you next time for hopefully a much better episode of Trauma Pond HQ. Have a great week, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.